That sounds good. So it's a little after 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. With that, we'll go ahead and move straight into the approval of the agenda. Anybody get a chance to take a peek?
I would need a motion to change.
I'll make the motion. Anybody got a second?
Staff agenda item 2 to 1.
I absolutely agree with that.
Second.
Fantastic. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward. I don't expect any other discussion. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4. Jamie, 5. Seth,
Aye.
6. That's 6 DAB members. We're good to go.
Fantastic. And so with that, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Anybody get a chance to see anything there? Camila, Shazam, there's 12 pages of meeting minute notes. Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion there? Seeing none, I'll move to approve unless anybody sees anything that needs to be changed.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Or say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jamie, you can just vote in the chat or raise your hand.
Very good. Awesome.
Gotcha.
That's everybody, right?
Yes, and we have a couple of DAB members that will be joining us in a little bit. We'll take another count later.
So fantastic. So everybody, thanks for your flexibility, and we'll go ahead and move straight into staff report number 2, Wichita Police Department.
Hello, this is Officer Malloy, Patrol East CP, Community Policing. Filling in for another officer, so wasn't too prepared, but violent crime and property crimes are still up across Patrol East. So one thing we're doing to continue addressing that is the CRT team from Knights has been partnered with the Community Policing team, and we've been flexing our schedules going after targeted offenders that are really affecting violent crime and property crimes across Patrol East. So we've been really successful at that. And we have some upcoming trainings together later this month too. Second, the Patrol East Community Policing team has started a sock drive, which is really a clothing drive for kiddos in Wichita. So we're collecting socks, underwear, and then new and gently used shoes and blankets. That started today, and we're running that until April 16th. And we're collecting all those clothes at the Patrol East substation. So if you have anything lying around the house or you know anybody that might, we're really hopeful that you'll share that and be able to contribute. And that's really about it for February.
Where do people drop off those donations?
Yeah, we're asking that they can drop them off at the Patrol East substation. Business hours are best, but if they don't make it there, there's normally an officer or supervisor there that can assist them.
Very good, Officer Malloy. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Hey, this is Officer Burnett coming from Patrol North, and I was very glad that Malloy walked over that made that were not used underwear. Those had to be new coming in, so that kind of made me nervous for a second there. So, and on a second note, yes, I will make the motion if I can hear a second for the PD always goes in front of the fire from now on since they're missing this meeting.
Good try.
There's a second. There's done. It's put it in the minutes, Camila. So. One thing we've had a big increase in gang violence over the past 6 months. A lot of it has been, especially in District 1 here as well, and Wichita Police Department has kind of revamped the old VCRT teams to form these CRT teams, which are now it's kind of like an old way that we used to work at it. We're targeting the gang members right now. They're targeting problems on the beat and stuff to try to calm this violence down. And over the past couple of weeks, has been dramatic decreases in gang violence that's been going on throughout the city. So it's actually been really successful and will continue to be that way as well. I think I spoke about this last month. I wasn't scheduled to be here this month, but there was a little change in our schedule. But Patrol North Community Policing Team did a like tire sweep of the Patrol North Bureau. It was mainly in District 1, but we did actually the entire North Bureau. And we ended up getting 354 tires, and they ended up almost 4 tons of tires were grabbed with trailers just with the help of the team. We're trying to let MABCD catch up because I know they were way behind with a lot of this stuff just because they were being overworked with a ton of things right now. So this was just something to assist them and try to get some of this problem blight out of the street here and stuff. So we did a warming assignment on the 25th of February because of our kind of cold spell that we ran through anyway. And so Patrol North officers came in at 5 in the morning, went around the city for people who were warming up their cars outside, handed out over 30 flyers. I didn't write any tickets or anything, just kind of letting everybody aware that, you know, if we wanted to steal the car, we could. And that still is an ongoing issue. We speak about that about every meeting we go to as far as the warming up with the cars. If you're going to do it, you don't have the automatic starter, when just suck it up and sit in the car or sit out there and watch it, one or the other. Lastly, and this is something we've harped on for well over a year now, gun thefts out of vehicles continue to be on the rise. So we're telling people, you know, one, make sure that you should secure all your valuables and leave nothing visible for anybody who want to get in your car. Make sure your cars are locked. But also, if you are storing a gun in the car, make sure you get it in or make sure it's secure and stuff before you just haphazardly leave it there in the car for somebody to grab, because thieves are actually looking for the guns a lot these days anyway. So that's all I have. So besides the motion I expect for future meetings with the fire department thing, but other than that, that is it.
I'm
Keep
leaving that one up
dreaming.
to Camila.
Keep dreaming. Not gonna happen.
That hurts a little bit, but I understand.
Officer Burnett, quick question. You mentioned a couple of different acronyms about how we're organizing. What's the difference in the organization and strategy between the different gang focuses?
It's a community response team. What they're just geared right now into dealing with just a lot of the things that we're dealing with here in the city right now with the gang violence that is going on, with a lot of the drive-bys and the unnecessary putting other people in danger and stuff. So they're just addressing issues where we have certain hotspots in the area where we have had either gang violence, gun violence, or just shots fired. And they are addressing certain individuals that are living in that area or suspects. And we're trying to get these guys off the streets or get these guns off the street here as well, because that is a big issue also with the sharing of the guns with a lot of these members as well. So it's just addressing the violent crime with them right now, and they're directly doing that. So.
Very good. Thank you for your service, sir.
You bet.
Officer Vegas, you up next?
How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Malloy, how are you doing in the back cave down there? You look kind of stark.
Keeps the kids quiet that way.
I completely understand. Well, to carry on from what Burnett was saying with the different CRT teams, we found that a lot of us were doing a lot of the same work. So something that Patrol South is starting to initiate and hopefully take citywide is to kind of enhance the communication and just the correspondence between the groups, because you get so many different people working the same types of cases. It's easy to kind of overlap. So we're trying to build some new repositories to kind of enhance that communication just a little bit. We're all doing really good work. It's just not necessary for all of us to be doing the same work when there's other things that we can be handling. So again, growing pains, but we'll get there and it'll improve a lot more. And so I can't wait to see the efficiency of these groups once we all come together a little bit better. News of the week, I guess, we had an individual in the downtown area that was doing inappropriate things with himself. And we got a call on that. I think it was on Wednesday, sometime around 2:45, or I guess a little closer to noon. But officers got to the area, and as they were looking for the suspect, there was a report of a assault that occurred on Main Street. That the suspect description was very similar to the one that we had already been dispatched to. There was a female victim that ended up being touched inappropriately by the same suspect. That day we weren't able to locate him in the area, so we went ahead and made the case. But around the same time the next day, myself, several of the crime analysts, some detectives, and then our homeless outreach team got into the area. We were able to pull some video from some nearby businesses, and we got a really good ID on who the suspect was through the homeless outreach team. They were aware of who he was. And we ended up just saturating the area. We drove around and he was seen walking down the street in the same clothes as he was on video. So he is now in custody, charged with sexual battery, as among other things. So I think that one hit the media. So we wanted to kind of touch on that for this meeting. I think the last thing, I mean, everything else pretty much translates to Southside. I mean, the property crimes are going up, especially more around the core area as you get closer to downtown. And that coupled with some of the mental health issues and homeless outreach issues that we're seeing down there, we decided to put together a program. It's going to run from pretty much now until May 1st. And May 1st is kind of the culmination date. Basically, our department is working with different agencies and different groups for public resources, such as mental health liaisons, substance abuse, homeless outreach. And we're really just going to saturate the area. Since it's Patrol South, we're going to focus mainly from Kellogg to Pawnee, and try to get resources out there and let people know that there is help available. We're going to culminate everything on May 1st. It's May Day. And the entirety of the project is Brush Up Broadway. And our hope is to get lots of volunteers down to the area. We're just going to do the Broadway corridor. So the alleyways on either side of Broadway, and then Broadway itself. We're going to paint some houses that are really in need of some just basic maintenance. A lot of businesses are going to be chipping in, trying to get their businesses cleaned up. We're cleaning graffiti and painting that, power washing. Broadway is a very historied street in our city's culture, just as much as Douglas is. So I'm really trying to hoping that we can pull some of that pride from the downtown area and kind of bring it down to Broadway and clean up the area, and really just give people a sense of home and a positive feeling about the environment. This is kind of the litmus test, and I'm mentioning it to you guys because I would like to see this done on North Broadway eventually. But we'll work the kinks out down south, and then we'll move forward and see if we can't put this in other parts of town. So that's pretty much all Southside has for the moment.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your service. Hey guys, none of three of you guys actually mentioned about some of the crazy stuff that's been in the news recently. Not sure if anybody wants to comment on it, but you guys are in many prayers, and thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. And there has been a lot of outreach from the public, reference what happened over the last weekend. And I can tell you that the officers are all now home. There's a little bit of recovery ahead for a couple of them, but they're all in good spirits and they're eager to get back to work and keep doing what we do. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the police department? Sorry for the dogs.
Do we have any comments on Facebook or on the chat? I can't see those from mine.
There's a question in Facebook. Says it's a little behind. Mr. Troy Thompson, what is the name of these places you were talking about? So I'm not sure what is referencing.
Was that for the
We'll have to go back and address that later, or when we post the minutes, we can address it. I know who that gentleman is. If you're hearing me, Mr. Thompson, you can inbox me and we'll get clarification for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Camila. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. I apologize. I came in a little late, and so I'm not sure if this was asked or addressed or even talked about, but last meeting we had a report from Patrol East, and we got briefed on the 3-month trial on the cameras, the data collected, and I think I just popped in when you were kind of mentioning work with that. But I was curious because the data collected and some of it was presented to us about, like the 120 arrests were able to be completed due to the help of the cameras, car thefts, and things of that nature. I was wondering if the data collected also collects demographics of those.
So can I jump in and say real quick, for the current officers, this was the question about the flock cameras, and we have a different report that Councilmember Johnson was going to address, Nikayla, about the location of those when he gets on to his portion. But I don't want to put them on the spot because it's Lieutenant Slaughter who has to provide that data.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Camille.
Good question, and thanks for bringing that back up, though. Anybody else have a question? Seeing none, gentlemen, thank you very much for your service.
All right, thank you. Hey, and just want to point out, no fire department still. So
Yes, Captain is on the call. Hey, don't do Captain like that. He's here.
I am on the call. We were super busy, and I just made it back to the station.
Oh,
there he is. Oh, I see him.
If you can believe that.
Oh, I believe it. You guys are always running around, so we appreciate you guys.
And right back at you.
All right, thanks, boss.
All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and move back into staff report number 1, which stuff?
Okay, so is this where the fire department is? I just kind of jumped back in here.
Yeah, I apologize. So the police department's already gone through and given their reports. We're just going to go ahead and move back into the item number 1, staff reports. If you'd be ready to go ahead and give us a report, we'd be happy to give you questions.
Okay, so in the month of February, we had 1 fire of significance in the district with $35,000 worth of damage to the structure itself and $5,000 to the contents. In the city as a whole, we had 11 significant fires with just under $500,000 in damage. Some of the news in the department is we have a new program where we're refurbishing some of our older machines rather than purchase new. So those have been completed by the factory in Wisconsin, and they should be arriving here in Wichita sometime in March. So we're very excited about that, and hopefully it'll be a program that will work well for us. We're also looking at applying for a grant to put a sixth truck in the city, which would serve the southwest part of the city primarily. Hopefully we'll know about that sometime this year and get it put on optimistically the beginning of 2022. Lastly, we did get cleared to hire a new recruit class, so hopefully it'll be somewhere between 6 and 10 type people. We haven't heard exactly, but we're excited about that as well.
Hey, Captain, can I ask you to pronounce your last name for us and to clarify, when you said new program for refurbished, is that machinery trucks? Is that fire trucks?
Yeah, so they're fire engines. So in the past, we run our engines as long as possible and our apparatus, and then we would purchase new. This program is a cost-saving deal where we send those older machines up to the factory, and they are completely gone through, rebuilt, and then sent back to us to put back on track at a cost savings. Oh, and my name is Captain Brubaker.
Fantastic. Sir, you have an amazing mustache.
Oh, you're the best.
Well, I'm jealous. It's great.
It took a lot of work.
Very good. Anybody have any questions? All
And
right.
those questions, Aaron, can we clarify questions from the public or DAB members?
Yep, fair.
Step for no patient squad 5, I'll show you available.
So Captain Brubaker, I guess I've got one. You mentioned that we actually have a new class that's actually coming up in the area. I believe that there's a handful of different classes, either at high schools or whatever, that actually lead people in your direction towards fire department. What portion of the new people that actually come through our classes actually have that background?
You know, that's super interesting. I would say that maybe half of our new hires have prior fire experience, and that's kind of the what we like so much about our academy is we can take that same group of people, whether they have no experience or whether they're transferring with 10 years on another department, and we take it and basically we start at the ground level and teach the basics and teach the Wichita way of doing things. So our program is built that way, where we start at ground level and teach everybody the same, whether they have experience or have none.
Very good. Anybody from the DAB have any questions? Anybody from the open community?
Squad 37, step 4.
Captain Brubaker, thank you very much for your service, sir.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
You too. Do we have anybody else from fire? Does not look so. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward into item 3, Public Works and Utilities, please.
The agenda is different, and item number 3 is Wichita Public Library.
Okay, well, I'll jump in then. Ann Ethan from the Wichita Public Library. Late afternoon update. Camila, I'll send this to you later. All Wichita Public Library locations will reopen to in-person service starting next Monday, March the 8th. We'll be operating our regular hours. We will allow customers to come in and browse the shelves, which we had not allowed previously. Public computing will be available at most library locations, as well as print, copy, and faxing. There will be you can come in and use the Wi-Fi. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability, but I know you've got lots of other things to cover this evening. So that's about all I was going to say. So if there's any questions, I'll take those.
Very good. Would you just repeat one more time when people will be able to come browse in person? What date?
Next Monday, March the 8th. So that's been the biggest question we've gotten all this time when we've been closed or partially reopened. Yes, we are reopening the stacks starting next Monday. We are in the process of getting things moved back to where they need to be.
Fantastic. Excellent. Anybody else have questions? From the DAB or from the community? And seeing no more, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, we'll move into item number 4, arts and culture.
Hello, this is Alicia. I'm from City Arts, and I wanted to share with you guys that enrollment is open for our spring classes. Spring classes start on March 29th. We have a range of classes. There's something for everyone, all ages, all skill levels, and we have workshops and birthday party opportunities. And currently in our galleries, we have a show that is put together from Janice Thacker. It's Art That Touches Your Heart, celebrating and educating about Black History Month. That is on display until Thursday. So if you haven't seen it, then I encourage you guys to come in and see it before Thursday. And we also have a photography exhibit from Carrie Conover in our main gallery, and that's running until April 2nd. They're huge photographs of all over Wichita, so something that you would probably recognize. And if you guys are interested in just shopping local, we have so many different things from local artists in our art shop. So if you guys are looking for something fun and creative to do, come on down to Wichita or to City Arts in the Old Town Plaza.
Fantastic. Alicia, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Alicia from the DAB to start?
Alicia, are you interested in talking about the glass blowing?
Oh, yes. So just over a year ago, Vice Mayor Johnson visited City Arts when he first was coming into office, and he did glass blowing. He made some paperweights up here in our glass blowing studio. We have a video recorded. I don't know, do we share that, Camila? Or we have it on our Facebook.
I'll link it in so people can see it.
Uh-huh. And so that's something fun to do. We also have these team building activities. So if you guys are with an organization or a workplace, then we offer glass blowing, pottery, painting, something like this that you can come and just do one day with your coworkers. And it's a really fun experience to see people try something new and see how they do. Also in the chat, I'll link to our website so then you can see the classes that we offer if you had anybody you could share that with.
Thank you very much. That's
Thank
fantastic. Any other questions?
Hey, Aaron. Yeah, no question, but I do want to say the glass blowing is awesome. You should all do it. It was a really fun experience for me, and it's a lot hotter than you think in there. But just looking at how it all came out, it's really awesome. I still have that. I made a glass paperweight. It's on my desk now, but it's really awesome. I want to encourage everybody to do it. Yes, like that.
Yeah, I'm a potter, so it was something that was very out of my comfort zone to do something that got that hot, but it is fun to do. It's stretching yourself.
Yes, everybody should do it. So make sure you sign up for a class and go check it out.
Thank you. And I'll put the link to our website over there in the chat if you guys could share that with anybody you know interested in the arts.
Very good. So with that, Alicia, have a great evening and much appreciated. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and move into item number 5, which is scheduled items. There are none here tonight. In the future, if anybody would like to go ahead and get on the calendar, just go ahead and touch base with Camila, and we can actually put your items specifically on the agenda. Without anything there, we'll move into off-agenda items, which is number 6, which is where if you forget to go ahead and touch base with Camila, you can still come in and actually talk about your item for up to 5 minutes. Does anybody have anything for off-agenda items this evening? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on forward. So moving into new business, places for people implementation.
Hi, can I unmute real quick and say we have Mary Hunt who's showing her face to present, and J.R. Cox who's on the phone line to help with conversation, questions, and concerns for the public and DAB.
All right. Well, thank you, Camila. I'm going to try and share my screen now. Tell me if I'm doing this right.
I just made you co-host again, so now try to do it.
Now. Share. Tell me what you see.
We see Places for People screen 1, and we see what's up next. So you can hit that arrow. It says it's 75 slides.
All right. Oops. Sorry. It's not moving. Okay, that seems to be working. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, well, hey, everyone, thank you very much for letting me attend this meeting tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about 2 implementation steps of implementing places for people. And the engagement process that we have here, and this is actually zoning and land bank, so I'm going to talk about both of them. But last week we had, or I should say 2 weeks ago, we had the land bank on our Facebook town hall. Then last Tuesday, we had the zoning Facebook town hall, and both very well attended. Now we're in the month of March, so we're going to be talking about talking to the district advisory boards, as well as some other boards and groups that are out there that have graciously put us on their agenda. And hopefully this spring, we'll be going to Planning Commission and City Council, depending upon, of course, and of course our County Commission as well. But during this entire period, what we're wanting to do is collect public commentary. So we're going to talk about zoning and land bank, like I said, but we're going to start off with zoning. And there's a lot of information in here. Oops. Hope it's not advancing. What am I doing wrong? There we go. Okay. This is better. All right. So we did the social media. We've got an email address here at planning@wichita.gov. And you can submit any comments you like there, and we'll get responses to that. We've also got a form on our website called wichita.gov Places for People. There's another form there that you can use to submit comments or questions and such, or you can even call us here at the office, here at the Reagan Building. So tonight's purpose is really just to get input. We're not asking any of the DABs this time to vote up or down on this because there's just so much information. And we really want people to be able to think about this and provide us our comments, because we really want to know, are we on the right track? Are we not being aggressive enough? Are we being too aggressive? Is it too much information? That sort of thing. And so we want to share with you what came out of Places for People and how we as staff have interpreted some of the action steps that they've talked about. So again, I'll go over some background material on how this all came about. We'll talk about the zoning part, we'll talk about the land bank part, and then we'll talk about some next steps. So background, well, it all started going back to, probably about 2012 or so, when we came out with our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan is called the Community Investment Plan, and that's at the top of this slide. And it called for an urban infill strategy, okay? And that's what brought us Places for People. And out of that, tonight comes the zoning part, the land bank part, and then we'll be coming later on. We're still working on the incentives and the nodal part. But having 2 things in one night is enough for anybody to kind of have that all sink in. So here was the Community Investment Plan adopted back in 2016. It's very infrastructure focused. If you've ever looked at it, it's all about transportation and infrastructure and even finance. But it is the one that targeted the urban infill strategy and said, hey, look at this. And it also identified the established central area, okay, which is I'm going to show you a map here, but it's a section of Wichita that said we need to be directing some attention there. 4-year process. We had a citizen steering committee, lots of surveying, lots of meetings. And if any of you were on the DAB back then, this may be familiar with you, but if there are some people that weren't, this is just kind of a quick little recap of what we did back then. So we know some of the trends that we know we're dealing with, of course, is that we never quite have enough money. We know our household sizes are getting smaller. They're also more diverse and they're also older. People are simply living longer. And people expressed a preference for more different transportation options in addition to the automobile. And of course, like a lot of cities across America, we compete for talent to come here and keep our city thriving. So that plan, that comprehensive plan back in 2016 called for the urban infill strategy because they wanted to reverse patterns of abandonment and decline, reduce some growth pressure on the edges of our city. And we wanted more efficient use of our land, more efficient use of our infrastructure and the services we provide here in the city, and just improve the quality of life in this area. Now, this next map might be familiar to you. This is the map of the established central area. We call it the ECA, and it's the red line. And this red line goes from Ridge Road on the west to Rock Road on the east, 29th Street on the north to 31st Street. These are the areas of the city that were predominantly built before the 1960s, or even into the 1960s a little bit, let's say before 1970. And they have a different development pattern than on the other side of the line. And this area in the middle, this green area, that is the built area in Wichita right around World War II. So a lot happened after World War II. So Wichita Places for People was the name we gave to this urban infill strategy that came out of the comprehensive plan. And it wanted strong neighborhoods, vibrant centers, a strong economy. And they want to do it by doing infill reinvestment, having walkable neighborhoods, having choices on transportation, and having some housing options. Here's that same map going from Ridge Road to Rock Road, 29th to 31st. But this is what the consultants came up with. They kind of split this part of the city into areas of stability, and that's the purple. And then there are the areas that weren't quite as stable. There are areas of opportunity, and that's the orange. And then all those dots are there were the nodes that they thought could possibly be developed. Not all of them are going to develop, but that they were good locations for consideration. And that came out of the plan. And the reason they're different sizes is because these are nodes of different sizes. You'd have a little neighborhood hub that would be fairly small. You'd have a community hub. That one would be a little bit larger, and it's kind of pulling people from a larger area. And then you have your regional centers, and you'll notice the regional centers are like the mall and the hospital or the hospitals and the university, things like that. Those are huge draws. They pull people from outside our county even. So we had a really robust public engagement plan going on here. We had an advisory committee. There were stakeholders. Their city council appointed several people. We had neighborhood associations. Again, many meetings. And of course, the one that was, I think, the most enjoyable was the visual preference survey, where we had over 300 people take the time to do that because it took some time. And from that, all of that came our zoning recommendations, the recommendation to establish a land bank, and then an investment strategy. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the investment strategy tonight. That group has been meeting for the shortest period of time. But the zoning and land bank have been meeting for some time. A lot of the people on there are primarily kind of the technical people that know how to draft code, people like JR, who's joining us tonight, and that help get this through and get it ready to present to you tonight. So I'm going to just pause for 2 seconds here and just ask you, are there any questions about how this thing came to be? Okay. All right. Assuming not, I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about zoning first. Okay. So what's zoning? Zoning regulates the land uses and incorporates certain rights to a property owner. And zoning can change on a particular parcel or a group of parcels. It can change when the property owner and whatever governing body, whether it's the city or the county, they both agree, yes, we will change the zoning on that piece of land. And of course, zoning is administered by city or county governments. And in the case in Wichita, the Metropolitan Area Planning Department, we do the planning for both the city and the county. And so why? What are the benefits of zoning? And why were we pursuing this? Because we wanted to enhance walkability. I'll just say this, the current zoning code that we have works very, very well if you live outside the established central area. It is built to promote that kind of development, suburban development. And just by reading it, you can tell that that is what it's built on. It's built on the automobile is predominant, and no other form of transportation is really focused on. So we want to be looking at the zoning changes that can kind of pull that back a little bit. And we want, enhancing walkability, but doing it gradually. We want to increase housing choices and opportunities for people. I'm just going to stop here and say, well, what does that mean? What that means is that if you've lived in a house for 30 some years and now you're getting older, and it's hard for you to keep up that house, in so many places, you have to leave your neighborhood. And you oftentimes not just leave the neighborhood, you have to leave your friends, you have to leave your church. I mean, you have to move so far away, and that's really difficult for people. One of the things that this can do is help make it a neighborhood where people can actually age right there. They can start out when they're very young. They can grow up in a neighborhood. They can move back in when they've come back and they've started their careers or whatever, but they can also live there until they're quite old. So we want to increase the housing choices. We talked about the physical differences in the way our neighborhoods developed, whether it was pre-1960 or after 1960. And again, we want to have efficient use of our infrastructure. So we do have a draft proposal, and the reason it's being brought to you tonight, and we encourage you to take a look at it and listen to this, is to see, are we on the right track? Do you think that this is going to serve the needs of this community? And in the zoning proposal, we have 4 areas that we're looking at this time. One is accessory apartments. One is duplex development in a single family zoning district. We've got some regulations going here for dwellings on a compact lot, meaning a lot that's smaller than the typical lot. And then we have the townhomes and multi-unit buildings. So we're focusing only on the established central area at this time, because that's where the comprehensive plan directed us. And we're also kind of proposing this as simply an option available to property owners. The current zoning regulations that we have do not go away. So a property owner can say, well, I'll look at option A, or I'll look at option B and see which one works best for me. This is done as an overlay over this area, but both zoning codes could apply to the same area, and that's the established central area. We will also have design standards that reflect neighborhood character, and this all came out of many discussions when we were doing places for people, the plan from 2019, and especially that visual preference survey. And one of the things we're going to do is offer a shorter approval process. Typically today, if you want to come in and somebody wants to say build a small accessory dwelling unit in their backyard, It can take anywhere from 75 to 90 days just to hear an answer. Now, if they meet all the requirements, they're pretty much going to get a yes, but it's lengthy and it's expensive. So we're looking at maybe a way to shorten that approval process. But in exchange for it, we're asking for higher design standards.
Hey, Mary, real quick,
Yes.
question for you. Do you want to have questions while you're going or hold them till the end?
Well, I thought I'd get through the zoning section and then we could have questions about that. But really, I'm fine with people just interjecting a question. Just tell me to,
Well,
I mean, I'm fine with it.
we may have actually gone a little past the specific questions. So why don't we stick with
Oh.
the original plan to go ahead and get to the zoning portion, and then we've got a couple of questions that are in the chat.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so the first one is the accessory apartment, or yeah, accessory apartment, that's what we call them. A lot of other cities just call them accessory dwelling units, and here are a couple illustrations. The top one shows a separate structure on the backyard. It's not attached to anything else. It's just a separate structure that is the accessory unit. The one on the bottom is showing another example where people will build an apartment above the garage, okay? And both are perfectly valid. They do need to be a dwelling unit. They are separate from the main home, and they do have to share utilities, meaning someone cannot come in and sell off the accessory unit. They get their own utilities, and now you've got two parcels. That cannot happen. That will not happen. And luckily, because we have our own water department, such we can control the water and sewer to this structure and make sure that they're not splitting it off and making it something separate. So the benefits are, it responds to the interest that people wanted additional housing options. And they also said they wanted, compatible designs with their neighborhood. Now, a lot of neighborhoods will have a variety of things going on, and that's fine. But what we did not want to see was something from way out in the outer edges of Wichita and have that plucked right into like one of our more historic neighborhoods, and where it looks like it just does not fit. Another benefit is it reduces the regulatory hurdles, the having to jump through hoops to get an answer. And it increases the supply of housing in a walkable area. Again, like I said before, efficient use of our land and utilizing the existing infrastructure. And here are some examples. The lower left, that's actually a two-story accessory unit, but the other two on the right are units that are above garages. And here's some other examples. What we're looking here, though, is we want architectural style and materials that are similar. They don't have to be identical, but they need to be similar to the main building and be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The maximum square footage is up to 75% of the main home. Now, there are lots of homes on smaller lots, and they're not really going to be able to go up the full 75, but we do have areas within the ECA that could do that if they wanted to. The maximum height is 60% of what we currently allow, which means we would have about 21 feet height. What we don't want is a super high accessory unit looking over all the houses in the neighborhood. So we've limited to that. And then there are some requirements on roofing and siding and, where the doors face, that sort of thing. And of course, lots and lots of other communities. We could have filled this page with communities that are doing this, where we're wanting to expedite the whole approval process. Any questions on accessory units? Or even something from before? Happy to pause.
Mary, we have to stop and give it back to Aaron for him to have the discussion with the DAB members first and then the public.
Okay, so what do you want me to do?
So why don't we just stop here and we'll take it out to the DAB to see if any of the DAB
Okay.
questions based off of the portion that you've presented thus far.
Yeah. You want me to then stop share, Camila?
Nope, you can leave your screen there so we don't mess anything up. Aaron, if we could take the first question in the chat of, do you have demographics of the 4,000 people that filled out the survey? How can we get that shared to us, Mary?
Oh, well, we can go back and look at the stuff from Places for People that we adopted in 2019. I think I had that question on our Facebook town hall, and I don't know how detailed the demographics are, but we can find out because, of course, it was a citywide, even though it was pertaining to the established central area, the whole city could participate. But no, we did not ask people to give us their age or anything like that when they were coming in the door, because that was back in the days when we didn't have to do it this way.
And only thing I'll go back and help you out with and say, Mary, is this did come to the District Advisory Board. It was presented to some of the majority of the neighborhood associations who accepted the presentation. That's what I will share from a District 1 standpoint.
Okay.
Very good. So Seth actually has one, but it's actually from someone that was on Facebook. Are there any other questions directly from the DAB?
I have a couple of questions.
Get it?
Okay. All right. So when you're proposing zoning changes and making the process easier, although you're talking about a particular district right now, if that is approved, then it affects the entire city, correct?
It does not.
It does not. So how would that work?
It only affects the established central area. It's only going to be offered to the established central area. And I would remind you that the zoning process that exists today would still be in place. Somebody could opt for that. Somebody could say, well, I don't like your design standards. They're just too, they're just too onerous. I'm going to go the old fashioned way and hope I get an answer in 90 days.
Right. But they have the option of either.
They have the option of either one.
Right.
But anyone outside the ECA area does not. They have what we have today.
Okay, so what is the ECA area again?
It runs from Ridge Road out west to Rock Road on the east, 29th Street to the north, 31st Street to the south.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty large area.
Oh, it's half the city.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's not a tiny area at all.
Right.
But they chose that based upon how development changed quite drastically when we started hitting the late 60s and 1970. That's when things really started to change. And so they thought, that's our line.
Okay. And so I know earlier you talked about walkable designs and things like that, but over in District 1, we've seen new properties come up and there is no walk. The walk space is always getting smaller and smaller. And
I know, and that's why we're trying to get this where that will be required. Where it isn't a garage out front.
Well, I'm talking about apartment complexes that have just gone up that almost press up against the sidewalk, and those are recent designs. So I'm just wondering how will you make sure across the board that the plan is moving the way that you guys envision?
Well, what we're trying to do with all of this is make it so enticing by removing a lot of hurdles, because for any developer, time is far more valuable to them than money.
Right.
If we can offer them, here's what we're looking at. We can do this quickly. And for all of you that don't want this, it's going to take a long, long time. And and depending upon the kind of comment we get tonight and going forward, because I've got DABs next week too.
Right.
But getting, is this on the right track? Because like I said, when I first introduced myself, And it's like, we're looking for feedback on, is this aggressive enough? Or is it too much?
Right, right. And that's what I'm worried about, the too much, to make sure that we don't take away the rights of current homeowners and community members, neighborhood members, so that they have a say in what goes on in their neighborhoods. So far, it pretty much seems like more often than not, the developer overrules the homeowner. And so I'm just making sure that there's still a way that the voice of the homeowners and the neighborhoods still have a voice. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. That's important. Thank you.
And I'll kind of piggyback on what LaWanda is elevating. And you may have gotten to it. I may have missed it, but to the conversation of having that community participation. I mean, this is what we're doing right now, but
Right.
with those new developments, I know, 10 days with a little sign and those things were talked about at the town halls to look into that, to, perhaps redesign the sign, maybe make it bigger. Because I do know that oftentimes those signs are not, people do not even know what it is to know that, oh, I need to call this number to get some information. So, just ensuring that there is a way that actually resonates with the community. Because, we may think, well, we put a sign out, well, that's not an effective means, so
Okay.
just ensuring those type of things are accounted for is a concern.
Well, I think that's a good concern too, because weather can really do a job on those little signs. And so if that's important to you, we're gonna put that in there, because you're not the first person to make note of it. Okay, so thank you.
Mary, this is a Tex Dozier DAB member. Following up with what LaWanda was asking about, the biggest complex that this would impact would be a townhome, correct? This, as far as on these streamlined standards?
Yes, and I've only gotten through the accessory units.
Okay.
Yeah, the small apartment buildings, or the small scale apartment buildings, that's the biggest building that I have in this presentation tonight.
Got it. And then,
Really, a large apartment complex just doesn't fit.
right, because that's what I was getting from what you've gone over so far is there's the talk of new development, but there's also a talk of redevelopment, and there's a key educational aspect here, which is the general with our residents in the city here, basically giving them this option that they would not even know they had, or have to go through a lot of red tape to do. So as you said, so they could stay in their neighborhoods. We had this last month on DAB with a developer, and those residents, when they move in, could have that option without the onus of going through the zoning process with those standards. I just think I get the streamlining here, because we have family finances and future that always impact. But what I was thinking, connecting it to the signs, is folks need to understand that places for people is different than the traditional development process. And so maybe that can be a part of the discussion in transparency with the neighborhoods on how we're notifying individuals as we go about it. So as a part of sign redesign, maybe there's a somewhat different sign for these residential properties that are being redeveloped. Maybe it's even a different color that actually identifies places for people, or has a website particularly taking them to that. And then signs coming from the marketing world are often not enough. But I know there was also talk in this process about just relying on the signs, but also I wouldn't want the city with its priorities that's already been discussed and agreed on to have to worry about a big formal mailer versus potentially maybe a postcard that is a standard postcard around places for people that goes to the surrounding area, which is just as informative as it is of notifying about a mail merge of the zoning case going on. And because then the individuals in that street, if I'm 3 houses down, I might not even know about places for people that
I can put in a accessory dwelling unit for my office or for my mother or something like that. And I feel like that's a big thing that will also not intimidate some individuals when all these streamlined requests are starting to come through in their neighborhoods. They understand that this is different than a bigger redevelopment project.
Yeah, all right. Those are great comments. Okay. Anybody else?
So you presented, so far, well, you've only done the accessory apartments, but overall, we're just talking about an easier way to develop for accessory apartments, duplexes, what did I see? Single family dwellings on compact lots and townhomes. That's it. Everything else that falls outside of that range would have to go through the normal zoning process.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarified.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tadon, your voice was kind of low, so I want to clarify that out loud, that this was about like accessory apartments, duplexes, homes, but not large, like a commercial building and apartment complexes, right, Mary?
That's correct.
Okay.
We're not talking anything right now about commercial. Now, there are recommendations in the plan about commercial, but our little zoning team that tried to tackle this and see how could it be incorporated into our zoning code. We're only going after tonight discussions on accessory apartments, duplex development in a single family zoning district, the compact lot, putting a house on a compact lot, and then small scale apartment buildings. That's it.
So,
and of course, when we're done with this, we'll talk about land bank.
Hold on, Mary, you got to go back and define what is small scale apartment. Now that.
Well, I'll show you when we get through this, okay? Generally,
Gotcha.
it's like 4 units on a typical residential lot. We have a lot of them in College Hill.
4 units as in single level or 2 level?
Well, it'd probably have to be 2 because a typical lot isn't that big. It's only 50 feet wide.
Gotcha. Sorry, Michaela. Just wanted to get my notes right.
Well, we may get to that point. You might address this. So if so, let me know. But so those are, those fall under this umbrella that we're discussing today. Those large scale apartments, then would they not be grounds to this, the streamlined process? Would they then go through
No.
So they would still have to go through the process of DAB, planning, city council.
The planning commission, the public hearing process, the notification process. Yes.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Shall I
Any
start
other
talking about
questions?
duplexes now?
Real quick, just going out to the community. Does anybody from the community have any questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Seeing none, Mary, go forward.
Okay.
No, hold on, Aaron. I would like to acknowledge Facebook. So on Facebook, we see some conversations on here that said it looked like it was fast track programming. Not sure what they meant by REI, which could lead to more slumlords and easier gentrification. And also, someone said, so far, I like what I'm hearing about accessory units. Someone else said, we want more walk space. And then the question of, this is a question what is the level of transparency will there be for this approval process of these investors? And is that going back to is there any notification is how I would read that question.
Well, I'm going to talk about notification here.
Okay, so we'll hold that question. And then it says, how is that improved over the lack of accountability we have with existing developers? And we know now that some of those developers are on that larger scale commercial part. So that question I think was already addressed.
Okay. Very good. All right.
So before we go too much further, just going to put in my 2 cents. Mary, this is fantastic from a macro perspective, from our country's demographics. This is an answer to an issue that we actually have. I would love if anybody could actually dig more into the question or comment that somebody had about gentrification to understand that question or issue better. I don't understand that too much, especially if this is additional and not affecting the base unit that's actually on the property.
Right. Well, as far as gentrification goes, gentrification normally occurs in cities that have such high demand on all the real estate. It's almost impossible for anyone except the super wealthy to live there. And places like New York and San Francisco, parts of Los Angeles, that sort of thing, even Chicago, where the median home price is maybe $800,000. And so they're always pushing at real estate that is less valuable because they know they have this tremendous demand for that. If they just get rid of this little neighborhood, they could build high density housing and get top dollar for it because there's so much demand. Wichita is not like that. We don't have a median home price of $800,000. We don't even have a median home price have half that. Ours is more like 150,000. So people are not knocking on doors trying to get people to sell their homes so they can build hyper priced homes. The problem we have is that we have neighborhoods that people bought those homes, and those homes might not even be worth what they paid for them because there's stuff happening around them. And what we'd like to do is stop that hemorrhaging and have good design come into these neighborhoods. And so that's the only thing I have to say about gentrification. And maybe other staff people here will have a better explanation, but I understand people's fears, but I just don't think that it's going to be this tsunami of people coming in and wanting to buy up everybody's house because we made the approval process shorter. What we're trying to compete with is somebody who's developing on the edge of town and say, hey, give the middle part of Wichita another shot. We'll make it a little bit easier for you. Except we're going to demand better design standards. And so far, the response on design standards we've not had a lot of pushback so far. Does that help answer the question?
I think so. I absolutely agree. When you look around the area within the circle, gentrification is not the problem that we actually have.
No.
It's actually on the other end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. If somebody that was actually making the comment in Facebook wants to better explain the comment, I think we would better to hear it.
Well, and I think you'll see some of this addressed when we get to the land bank section, because we've got some policies in there on really promoting affordable housing, and that too can stem off that kind of pressure should that ever happen.
Can I interject, please, and say we have another comment from the community on Facebook that asks, can we define the neighborhood character? What's the definition of that?
Well, we're looking at the style of home that's in an area. It's highly specialized. It's highly unique because you go into the Riverside district and it's different. You go down to College Hill, it's different. And it has to do with, what scale of house is typical in this neighborhood? What's it shaped like? You know, is it all, are there a bunch of, you know, nice, tidy little front porches? Well, then that would be something we'd be looking at. And so when an application comes in, who's ever reviewing that, whether it's the folks down in the building department or a planner up in planning, however that ends up working out, they'll have to go out to that neighborhood and take a look. What kind of materials were used? Is it all brick housing? Or is it just siding? You know, we want things that don't look like they don't belong. So that
Well,
you
to
look
that
down the
point, I have a
street
question.
and it looks somewhat consistent.
So in the last meeting, we were talking about duplexes and how they come right out to the street, like the garage comes right out to the street. In areas like that, speaking to what you were just talking about, the neighborhood character, if those are already in that existing area, what do you plan to propose for an area like that? Are we going to be saying that we want them to look the new way, or is it okay to continue on with that style because they're already in the area?
Well, they're already there, and somebody has already paid to build them. And so they need to get a useful life out of that structure.
No, Mary, let me clarify, because you weren't on the last meeting. We had a concern about, let's say if someone asked for a decrease in their setback or the facade of their duplex. And so if you go look at the character, I'll just give an example of Atwater, and the duplex does not have a particular character. So that means they get to have any character. To Don, let me know if that helps.
Yeah, it does. So like to your point, I like in my area we have duplexes that have been built with the the garage directly up to the street. I like the proposal of that not being a thing going forward or for like a new development. And so I was wondering, so for my area, as an example, we still have empty lots. So if someone wanted to come in and develop those empty lots, would they be okay to do it the way that it's been done before, or would they have to be held to those higher standards?
They'd have to be held to the higher standard if they choose to go this route.
Okay.
Okay. They can still do it the old-fashioned way, if that's what they want to do.
And when she says old-fashioned, to Don, she means filing the regular zoning case and back in front of everybody else. I'm really saying this more for Facebook people who may not have been part of our previous month's conversations. I'm not trying to overstep you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Camila. Okay. Shall I move on?
Please.
Okay. Well, a duplex is two connected dwelling units. They can be side by side, or they can be stacked on top of one another, upstairs, downstairs. Again, the benefits are it responds to the interests of having some housing options. With it, we get hopefully some better, more compatible designs. It reduces the red tape somewhat and increases the supply of housing in a walkable area. Again, the other things that you've seen before. And here are some examples. The one on top is one that we think might be a good idea. And this is a duplex that's on a corner. And that is that when you're on, the street on the left of the picture and you're looking straight ahead, you see one door, not two. Okay. And then when you turn the corner, you go down by that little VW bug there, the yellow one, and you're looking at that side of the house, you see one front door. Okay. So it's only if you happen to walk down both streets or drive down both streets, you notice, oh my gosh, that's actually two homes, but it looks very single family and hopefully would fit in with the neighborhood. This one happens to be 2 stories tall. The other example here on the lower left, kind of rust or kind of red colored one, that's where they're stacked 2 units, one stacked on top of the other. And then the one in the middle is kind of a modern look where they're side by side, but one is recessed from the other one. And then the one on the lower right, that gray one, that's something more of a more of a suburban style, but the garage is not prominent. And we do have areas within the ECA that were built after World War II, where the ranch style house started to come into fashion. You go along Woodlawn and Edgemore and places like that, you'll start to see this kind of oftentimes single story ranch house, and this could fit in there. So the lot size for duplex would have to be 2,500 square feet per unit minimum, meaning 5,000 square foot lot for a duplex. And the 5,000 square foot lot is the minimum lot size for a single family home in this city. And again, design standards apply. And you see how the one on the top, it's a little more traditional looking, but it's offset. The side with the kind of orange door is recessed back, and the one with the turquoise door is coming forward a little bit. And then we have this kind of a modern one here. Again, these are examples where the garage is not the focal point when you drive or walk down the street. So here are some of the design standards we'd have. Garages extend no further out than the front wall line of the house. The garages are no more than 50% of the face of the building. And again, I told you about the corner lots having opposite streets. Front doors are prominent, and developments with several units can't just have cookie cutter one right after the other. This is where somebody comes in and they maybe they buy out enough room for 5 structures, 10 units. They cannot be duplicates of one another. They have to have some variety, because that's how houses got built. And again, this sort of option with the duplex is very common. Look at, this whole state of Oregon went with it. They didn't even do it city by city. Okay, any questions on duplexes?
Hey Mary, I have a question. It's Nikayla again with the DAB. It's not specifically on duplexes, I guess, but is there going to be a tracking system to perhaps see the ratio of duplexes or small apartment dwellings to then be able to see if there's saturation of some in some areas, or just to keep an eye on that?
Well, that's an excellent idea, because I was probably 2 weeks ago was talking to one of my colleagues. He does all the mapping for the department, actually does the mapping for a lot of departments, and said we need to start coming up with ways of tracking what's happening and who's doing it the current way, what I call the old-fashioned way, and who's doing it this new way once we figure out what our new way is. Because, again, we're looking for comments from people on if we're on target or not. But yes, you are absolutely right. That is a great suggestion. It's down the line a little bit, because all of this would have to be approved and enacted, and everybody trained on how to do it. And but yes, absolutely, we want to do a comparison and where it's happening. We'd like to map it where it's happening. Excellent idea, and thank you.
Yeah, I know that oftentimes here in our meetings with apartment complexes that we get, that is one of the comments is, I just feel like the community has said, I just feel like it's big apartment complex after big apartment complex after big apartment complex. And so if there is such a tracking system, we would be able to, say, well, that actually is the case, versus, well, we've actually the ratio is this or that. So I definitely think that would help with the conversation of community development.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion. We'll get that in there. Anybody else on? Do you think our some of the design things we're asking for are too much? You know, we're going to be going over to the Wichita Area Builders Association. When is that? On the 11th. And I think they're good with this. We'll see.
That's the price they pay for the expediency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
yeah.
want to stop and give a couple comments off of Facebook, if you don't mind, real quick, text, or go ahead and finish. Text.
Oh, no, I'd love to hear the questions.
These are more comments. I just want to stay in line with Facebook. It says College Hill has very nice examples of multiple dwelling buildings on Broadview and Belmont that doesn't seem to have driven down values and have given some folks the opportunity to be a part of this great neighborhood. Another comment, when it comes to things like Airbnb, this seems like something ripe for an Airbnb/side gig. Has this been a problem for other neighborhoods that have done this?
Ooh. Now, I don't know, because I don't know that they'd call the planning department if there was a problem. JR, do you have any knowledge of short-term rental type problems?
Well, Mary, I don't know that I have knowledge of problems. I think they are out there. I think in Wichita, depending on how they're operated and depending on the zoning district that they're in, they're likely to be illegal under our current regulations. It doesn't mean that it won't change in the future, but as the regulations currently are, short-term, what might be called short-term rentals by some, depending on how short-term they're defining it as, probably would just not be permitted in Wichita currently.
Yeah. And so who investigates that if somebody calls and complains?
So hold on, I see Tadon's hand, but JR, I'm gonna come back and say this. This is gonna spark a whole new conversation. So we'll probably have to have the Airbnb conversation later from the public and DAB members, because we know that people truly are posting their property in Wichita for Airbnb rentals.
They
Camila?
absolutely are, and I would definitely agree that let's actually postpone that conversation for a separate meeting.
Okay.
And I don't disagree with that. Probably a great idea. I would say that to answer Mary's question, of course, Mary, you know who it is. It's going to be the Zoning Enforcement Division of the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. That'd be my division, and we're going to operate on a complaint basis. Don't know that we've actually had too many complaints. What more we get are the questions. Hey, I think it's a great idea. Can I do this? Then you have to have the conversation and find out what they're really doing.
So the last thing I will say is, can we put a number in the chat of who do you call if you think an Airbnb is taking place after 5 p.m.? Because most of this is going to be a weekend complaint.
They would need to call, obviously, if there's illegal activity going on, they would need to call the police department to have police respond. But if it's just the use itself, they would need to call the Zoning Enforcement Division. They can call me directly at 660-1834, which is my direct desk line, or they can call the main planning department number at 268-4421. Either way, it'll get to me, and I'll get it to my folks.
Isn't this, though, a bit, it goes to what Mary's saying of maybe does this go too far or doesn't go far enough? Because that could be a part of an additional conversation around changing those rules as we have more accessory dwelling units, so folks can not just have their side hustle business, they could also potentially have that additional revenue stream that could come in handy right now.
If they really
my question was
that business. I mean, anybody who's ever run a bed and breakfast or anything like that, it is excruciatingly hard work. It's not easy money. There's
My
nothing
question
easy about
falls
it.
along enforcement as well, because I know something that I imagine is going to come up as you have more of these public forums is, yes, you have certain design standards for these 4 specific use cases. And yes, someone from the department comes out and tries to figure out the character of the neighborhood. But what is it then complaint basis after the fact to ensure that those design standards, those designs that were sent to y'all that y'all signed off on without having to come through DAB and everything, is it up then to the residents to then contact y'all and complain, or will y'all do some spot checks or things like that so no developer gets kind of carried away?
So I'll take a stab at answering that. So we're talking about construction here, either new, probably mostly new construction, and that would be handled by the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department. The review of the plans, we don't know how that's going to shake out yet. That's still to be determined. It well could be the planning department that reviews and okays the plans. But the actual inspection will be just like any other building inspection. It would be the building inspectors who look at that. At least at this point in time, that's what I would be envisioning. Does that help answer your question?
Right. Yeah. I was also thinking of situations where, let's say, a resident decides to put in an accessory dwelling unit, and it's not a new neighborhood development. If they provide, they're doing it themselves with a contractor and they put forward their designs, what's then the assurance that they actually follow those to keep in the character of the neighborhood? I think of something being proposed like in College Hill, for example, where it's maybe just one homeowner that has the means to do that. Where's the accountability then?
It'd be the same answer. They're not going to be able to do this kind of work without building permits. So they're going to have building, probably plumbing and electrical, mechanical permits, and they would sort of be quote unquote the gatekeepers.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I could see that coming up for folks. Just think most of the scrutiny's on the front end with this streamlined process.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Camila, should I go on to compact
Aaron, do you
lots?
see your DAB member hand raised?
I'm
I
sorry?
have a question.
Camila, do I see my what?
Oh, to Don's hand.
No, I have not. Tadon, please.
Okay, I have a few questions. So, all right, so to go back to the saturation idea or tracking the saturation, I was just thinking, I hope that this is true, Nikhil's point, but as far beyond research, my thoughts were if there could potentially be a saturation cap that could be implemented. I think about like the 17th Street area and all the apartments over there, and closer upon the residential area. And so my thoughts are and I have another question to that about this area, but just wondering if we do an assessment or some type of research and see that it's heavily saturated with apartments and we just don't need any more apartments, is there going to be, can we do something to prevent this area being overly ran with this new style of development, if you will? You might not have an answer, but that's my suggestion anyways.
Okay, thank you.
And then additionally for an area like the 17th Street area, I think it's 17th and Camille, is it 17th but Volusia area? Is it over by WSU?
There's two areas that when people think of 17th, and I'm going to use Mary's language, there's an old area of apartments from McAdams Park to the hydraulic area. And then there's a new apartment area that people are concerned with from Hillside to Oliver, which is south of Wichita State.
Okay, so the new development area is my thinking, and my question is, when you're assessing the character of the area and what's already there, so an area like that is like apartments are being thrown up, but it was a residential area, and so how is the assessment going to go in an area like that?
I guess I'm not familiar enough with that area specifically. Having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, Mary, to Don, you're kind of choppy, but I want to, gosh, y'all gonna have to forgive me for jumping in tonight. But Philip answered the question about 17th Street, south of Wichita State, of nothing would go south of Fairmount Park. And that was answered like 2 months ago in a DAB meeting when it came to the places for people playing and different apartments going in the Fairmount Neighborhood Association area, of how they had took a large assessment looking at that. And again, I'll say it again, would not go south, basically of 16th Street at Fairmount Park.
Okay, so I was using that as an example. It never hurts to reiterate something, Camila, but I was using it as an example because there might be other areas, potential areas that are similar to that or could come upon an issue like that. I want to know within this plan if there is going to be some, what would be the assessment of the area if it started out residential and then all of a sudden you know, developers came in and started putting in apartments or whatever falls within this particular range of approvability, if you will. I know that's not word, but because in my mind, that's changing the character of the area. If it was predominantly residential prior to this new development, so I want to know. Like you can take my area. It started as residential, a lot of vacant lots, maybe some torn down, and now there are duplexes being put in a rapid manner. And I just want to know if there's going to, what will be the like potential assessment of that area? Is it going to be okay to put another style in that area as long as it looks a certain way, or I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you understand what my question is?
Well, almost. Your concern is that they're going to take if I understand this right, they'll take what had been a single family home, little neighborhood or little pocket area, and they're just going to start building some high density apartment complex? Or no?
Yeah, and maybe my fear is stemming from what happened in that area, and within this plan, that's not something that fits anyways. But yeah, something like that.
Well, something like that
I think you got it.
Yeah, something like that would require a zoning district change. I mean, if the area had been single family and it had single family zoning, they'd have to request a rezoning. And if they're given the rezoning, and that goes through the planning commission and the city council, then it gets switched. But if it doesn't, they can't.
Yeah.
So, you know, certainly if this new plan that we have here for zoning goes through, and even if it gets a little tweaked here and there, it's only going to reinforce that you can't do stuff like that. Because they're going to look and say, well, does this fit the overlay district that we have in place there? And the answer is no, it doesn't.
Mary, before we wrap up with this part, I think the biggest concern is some of the areas we live in already have duplexes coming up on what we deem as single family property. And that's the conversation that I'm hearing from Tadon, because that is separate than 20 apartments, which would have to go through the regular zoning development. So what is in place for current duplexes coming up in our single family home areas?
Well, if a duplex goes in, it's because they were able to rezone the property. Because right now you can't have a duplex on a a single family dwelling SF5 zoning lot. They had to get a rezoning. And that's the kind of message that has to be coming through here. This is maybe some of the commentary is that that needs to stop.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay. And so what we're proposing here under the duplex is that it would be available, but with higher design standards. So then the question to you is, are those design standards enough? What are your concerns about that? And that's the kind of thing that when we're done with this DAB process and some of our other meetings, we'll start rehashing all the comments we're getting. You know, one of my colleagues, our director, is out talking to 2 groups tonight. As soon as I'm done here, I switch over to DAB 5, if they're still there, and talk about this.
I like the design concept you have for the duplexes, to make them look like they're single family homes. I think that's a really neat idea. I saw that on a TV show once, and I was like, ooh, that would be cool. So to see it in plan, in action, I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, good. Hey, thank you.
You're doing good. What do you say you keep going?
Okay. Then the next category, and this one doesn't involve as much, is just that we have sporadically throughout the ECA, we have lots that are less than 5,000 square feet. So you can't build anything on it. And they're typically less than 50 feet wide. And so we thought, well, we don't have very many of these, but let's have a way of being able to do some infill development, even on those smaller lots. And understand, we're not talking about a 10 or 15 foot wide lot. That's crazy. But we are talking about some that they're not 50 feet wide, they're 45 feet wide, or they're 40 feet wide. And how might we be able to get, just a smaller scale home filled in there? Because when it's just left vacant, people just start dumping stuff there in the middle of the night, and what do you do with it? And it has no value to the person who owns it. So it can become quite a distressing thing in a neighborhood if it's just sort of hanging there. So that's what we came up with. Now, some of these are quite, fairly slender, but again, it's the same benefits that we said before about, less red tape, another housing option. We got to have some great design required of it, etc. Those are the same reasons before, and they're all true. And so it would have to be a single family dwelling. The minimum lot size might be 3,000 feet. And the thing is, the lot might be decently wide, not 50 feet wide, but decent. It just maybe it's not quite as deep as everybody else in the neighborhood. We would ask for 1 off-street parking space if parking isn't available right by the house. And of course, we have the design standards. And in this case, the garages would extend no more than 5 feet from that front wall. If you remember before, we were saying it had to be flush or behind the front face of the main building, right? Here, it could extend out, but only about 5 feet. And again, garage doors no more than 50% of the front, and the front doors are prominent, and etc. It's just a little bit smaller house. And of course, we find these things happening all over Kansas, out in California, out in Washington. Okay. Anyway, so I'm not anticipating a lot of that because there aren't a lot of these small lots, but they are there. And if they can get used, that only enhances the neighborhood. And then we have, if you want me to, I can go on with the zoning townhome thing.
Please.
Yeah, okay. All right, so here's some examples. The top one side by side. This other one, although it's a little large on scale, it's still quite walkable. This is the one near Hillside and on Douglas. You guys have seen that. again, we're trying to respond to people wanting different kinds of housing and the needs that they have over time. Compatible designs, let's do it a little faster, etc. And here are just some examples. Maximum density would be 4 units to a standard parcel. In Wichita, the standard parcel is 2 25-foot platted lots, which equals 50, and it's 140 feet deep. That's typical. And so that is the density that we would allow. You could have up to 3 stories because that's allowed everywhere right now, but we would still have design requirements to go with it. Again, garages no more than 50%, and garages are either flush with the front of the building or it's recessed. Again, front doors are prominent and some of the similar design requirements that we've had. And again, here are some examples of what that could be. Some examples that exist, more traditional one on top, a little more modern one on the bottom, but you can see the communities that are doing this now. Okay. All right. I'm going to quickly go through this part, and we've already kind of talked about this. The current process, you apply, you have public notice, you go to the planning commission, you go to the city council, it goes to the DAB, maybe it gets kicked back to the planning commission. This is why you get that 75 to 90 day thing going on, okay? And you got an ordinance is passed. So we've got 2 alternatives to this. And that is, number 1 would be by right. Number 2 would be kind of a hybrid between what we currently have today, that 75 to 90 day process, and the by right alternative. Okay, so it's getting kind of into the details here. But if it was by right, it just means they would submit their plans, and if they meet all the requirements and the design requirements and everything that goes with that, they submit that, it gets approved, boom, they go start picking up their permits. And that happens in a few weeks, okay? If the answer is no, if they submit something, oh, they don't quite have it, we want to argue about this, and then they try to, maybe they'll update the design thing and it still isn't good enough, then we send them back to the current 90-day process. Okay, so the by right means they submit their construction permit, it's reviewed, it's approved, or it isn't, and they get kicked back, they get to start all over. And an alternative, alternative 1, again, encourages investment, housing options. But alternative 2 would be an administrative permit. It takes a little bit longer, but there is some public notice. So they start their planning application. There is a public notice feature to this. Okay, they have to meet the design requirements. If they do, they can proceed to construction. But when you have a public notice feature, that also means there's a potential for somebody to protest. Okay, so it's a little bit in between. So if there's too many protests against the thing, they have to go back to the usual process of applying for a conditional use, and now they're on that 75 to 90 day process. Okay, or they do meet everything and everything's good and nobody protested and they can go pick up their permits. Okay, so the process would be submit your application, there'd be public notice, the application is reviewed. If they have 75% of the people notified, that means the protest was successful. And so here's our glorious development application sign that you all love so much. So here on the right is a parcel. They have applied for something. The notification would go to all of the parcels directly around and across the street. If you took that street out and you squish those other parcels right up to that thing, pretend there's no street, if they touch, they get notified. And it's 75% of these people. This again, well, of course, it's a little less, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as predictable for the applicant. Okay. And they might just say, forget it, I'll just take the old fashioned way and take my chances that way. But it would only, those people would be notified, and then there'd be a sign in the yard for 10 days. That's the kind of compromise we have between the by right and what we currently have today. Does that make sense?
Mary?
Yeah.
Mary, can I chime in there? So as I recall, the notification was going to be in the form of signage on the subject property, although possibly not the sign we currently have.
Yes.
Very possibly something much more elaborative about what the project is. But I believe that was envisioned to be the notification for this.
Yes. Yeah, we've been discussing, and this group brought that up too earlier tonight. Anyway, have I been kind of clear as to what, it's not option A or option B, it's option A, B, and C. So.
Go ahead.
All right. So what happens in this? It's faster than our current process, but it's slower than by right. There's a public notice. There are some protest options. And so there's more potential for some variability. There's a little more risk for the person applying. And again, all the design standards have to stay in place. And again, this is for any of it. Any of these, it's for the accessory dwelling unit, the duplex, the compact lot size, etc. This process would be the same for all of those. Oop. All right, that is my last slide on zoning.
Can you go ahead and proceed, please?
Yes, I can. All right. So the second thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it's not as lengthy as zoning, because zoning had 4 components. It has to do with the establishment of a land bank. And I will tell you, most cities of any size have them, and they are addressing the conditions that you see here in this photograph typically. Okay. A land bank is a government entity focused on converting land to some level of productive use. It's generally vacant, it's generally abandoned, and it's tax delinquent. This is an example. Habitat provided these photos to us. This was the land when they picked it up, had nothing on it, had no structures on it, and this is what they built afterwards. So we researched a bunch of communities, some of them here in Kansas, a couple of them not, and asked them how they organize, what their priorities were, and how they operate. So what we came up with is there would be board members that are appointed by the city council. So we have 7 members on the council. There would be 7 board members. And we would typically have housing or rehab partnerships. The land bank, in the way we envision it, does not want to be a developer. It does not want to be in the land redevelopment business. We have people here in the city that do that, and they do it well. And so we should let them do it. So the focus is obviously revitalizing neighborhoods within the ECA where they need it. Affordable housing is a high priority. And then of course, we'd like home ownership as one of the focus areas. We know there's going to have to be a subsidy. A land bank is not a for-profit entity. They do not make money. Okay, it's going to require a subsidy in order to purchase lots. Even if the lots are available for very little money, it still takes some money. Staffing, we know we'll need some staff. Now you go up to Kansas City, Kansas, they are in the redevelopment business. They pick up every piece of property at a tax sale that did not sell. We are not in that business. They don't care whether the lot is useful or not. They will pick it up. They have 7 full-time people working on their land bank. That's not the direction this one is going. I'm just showing you kind of the extreme that can happen with these things. So what can a land bank do? There are some tools it has. It can abate the special assessments and back taxes. And I'll tell you how this can happen. Somebody lives in a house, they can no longer take care of it. It starts to get in poor condition. They either pass away or they move into a nursing home. They eventually do pass away, and some distant nephew out in, I don't know, Idaho, finds out that he's the only living relative they could find, and congratulations, you've just received this piece of property. And by the way, there's 3 years of back taxes on it. And you can't sell it for anything. That's a common thing to happen. And so what the land bank can do is say, we'll take it off your hands, you donate it to us, we'll get rid of all this, we'll get it all cleaned up. They can manage and maintain properties. They can sort through those ownership and title issues, because sometimes they don't find the long lost nephew. They find no one. That person, they have no living relatives that anybody knows about. And so it just languishes there. Okay, that's what a land bank can do. And that's what we're proposing here as how this land bank should function. Ideally, this land bank doesn't even want to pick up property that has a structure on it if it can avoid it, because it means demolition costs. But what we have right now, and this is on the website, Wichita Places for People website, we have a draft mission statement that talks about affordable housing being important, neighborhood revitalization, okay? It also has a draft ordinance, draft bylaws that the Board of Trustees that's appointed by the council, they would adopt those bylaws. So they're only draft because they're the ones that have to say, yep, these are our bylaws, and then draft policies. And the policies I've been talking about are, ideally you want a vacant lot, not a house with a structure on it. And anyway, and it has a nice little list of frequently asked questions. Okay. So land bank wants to manage and then transfer properties that are deemed underutilized. We would never, ever take a property, even one with a house, if it were occupied. They have to be not occupied. And they're underutilized because they're not contributing to their neighborhood at all. As a matter of fact, they're usually detracting from the neighborhood. So we have our Board of Trustees. That's what the ordinance will do. It establishes the land bank, and then it allows the city council to appoint the Board of Trustees. And what we're doing, this was the idea that came out. The Board of Trustees needs to be people with a lot of technical expertise in real estate law, construction, the marketing of properties. So what they decided to do is that they would allow advisory committees to advise the land bank from time to time, because the land bank might be doing business in one part of town for a little while, okay, maybe a couple of years. And then they move on to another part of town. Some opportunities have come up and they're moving. And so at that time, you would want a citizen advisory group that's very familiar with that neighborhood, okay? And once they leave that area, maybe go to someplace else, then you'd want neighborhood people from that part of town, okay? And so those would be ad hoc committees that advise them. The land bank would, it technically would cover the entire city, because there might be an opportunity to pick up something outside the ECA, but pretty much they want to focus on the established central area. And so, because we don't want whatever financial resources we have to be diluted beyond the ECA. So the land bank would then purchase and sell land. It would take it in, clean it up, and then with partners like Habitat for Humanity and Mennonite Housing, and there's others and others that are in the nonprofit business as well as for-profit, then they could then pick that property up. And the land bank still maintains its role as strictly being an advisory group to the city council. So the city council has to approve every transaction. And I know this keeps coming up. State law prohibits a land bank from engaging in eminent domain. It simply cannot do it. And with the kind of policies that I've been talking about tonight, they wouldn't even get close to something like eminent domain. But even if they tried, they couldn't do it. So you have your applicant, they want to buy something, they go to the Wichita Board of Trustees and the Land Bank Board of Trustees, and then they say, here's our proposal, here's what we'd like to do. And they will evaluate different proposals to see what's the best one for the community. And it isn't always the one that offered the most money. It might be somebody who says, we think the best use of this property is community garden or something to do with, parkland or something. It might not make any money at all, but it might be what that neighborhood needs. And that's why those advisory committees are so important in supporting the Board of Trustees. And then once the Board of Trustees is saying, okay, we think we have the best thing going here, they then go to the Wichita City Council for the final blessing. So it's focused on the established central area. They're looking at affordable housing, neighborhood revitalization, and a big focus on housing, but also possibly retail and commercial property that has seen better days, as well as open space, because we know we have pockets within the city there's no open space. They're also looking at a quick property transition, meaning if they take a piece of property into the land bank, they have a pretty good idea about what they want it for. They don't take it in and say, well, anybody got any great ideas on what we should do with this thing? No, they want to take things in. They want to be very strategic about why they took things in and have a plan, a general plan as to what to do with it. And so that's what they mean by targeted and strategic acquisitions. And they'll have an application process to sell it or transfer it. And again, in the our effort for transparency, City Council is always looking out for it. So we have frequently asked questions on our website. What it is, what are the benefits, who has the authority, that sort of thing. And so any questions on land bank?
I want to go back and say that you might be done with land bank, but I want to go back to some of the other questions and concerns. I just wanted you to get through most of that first. So I want to go back to a couple questions and I am on both the Zoom chat and Facebook. So a DAB member asked, will the higher standard design requirements under places for people still allow for any of these single family homes being built by affordable programs like Mennonite, Habitat, or CDC? Do they come through places for people? Do the CHODOs, like, sorry, I use the acronym, community development opportunity groups, do they come through places for people, or they go through the regular development?
Well, I guess it depends what they want to do. They're like anybody else. They can apply through the long process, or they can adhere to the higher design standards and do it quickly. Now, the Board of Trustees is going to look at their proposal. And so the Board of Trustees might say, well, here's somebody that's willing to go by our design standards. Is that better for the community? Or is this other person's proposal that doesn't do that? They have the right to make those judgments.
But the question was about single family homes. So can single family, so Habitat, so I just want to clarify, Habitat, Mennonite, or Power CDC could go through the Places for People for single family home development if they thought this was a better streamline for them?
Yes, yes, they could.
And then I want to just go ahead and a few comments. It says, it seems like, and I'm going to say Places for People is simpler for them. Them was not identified. And then it said not the community. But later the comment kind of wraps in from the same person. The design is not the issue. The potential people developing or those who are unable to develop is the problem, that a community member said.
Okay.
And of course, these notes will be sent to you later. You don't have to respond.
Thank you. Any others?
Good comment that was actually in the chat too. She asks, did I hear that for-profit home builders would be allowed to buy property from the land bank?
Yes. But again, it depends upon their proposal. What proposal do they have? Because the land bank will be very, very specific about what they want. You can't just come in and pick up a lot and say, trust me, I'll make it nice. They have to get very specific about what they're going to use that lot for. What is your development proposal? And they will evaluate that based upon all proposals, including the kind that don't necessarily make the land bank any money at all.
Forgive me, when you say they, who is they?
I'm sorry, how did I phrase that?
When you said they will evaluate, who is they?
The Board of Trustees.
The Land Bank Board of Trustees.
The Land Bank Board of Trustees, the
Gotcha.
7-member group appointed by the council.
Cool. Anybody else? What are we missing? Were there other questions that were out there?
And I want to point out too, on somebody who wants to donate their property to the land bank does not have to take it. Same thing, if people send in proposals for a particular place and the Board of Trustees is not happy with any of them, they do not have to act on them.
Gotcha. And you'll get into who might make that group up later in the presentation, right?
Well, no, the city council will appoint the Board of Trustees. Each council person is allowed to appoint a person.
Gotcha.
We just want them to have a variety of backgrounds in real estate finance, real estate law, the construction business, because they're going to be making decisions about what building do we sell? Do we get it to a point where somebody can rehab it, or do we tear it down? Or how much of clearing of brush and everything are we going to do? I mean, it's really a hands-on kind of thing. They really have to know what they're doing. They have to understand that industry.
Hey, Mary, I had some negative feedback on this from a neighbor, but I also had some concerns owing to some land banks and the practices I've seen in Michigan and in Ohio. Even where they say they don't get into the practice of eminent domain, they are getting into the business of real estate, where these are often predatory, now big government entities stepping in and competing on these foreclosures in the marketplace at the backing of taxpayers and taxpayer funded staff, while they don't have to pay any property tax, can forgive all the liens, and then use special interest to select who gets those properties, with the only check being the city council that appointed the folks for the advisory board. And then I know you said that it's not a for-profit entity, but there's I imagine certainly 100% or some portion of proceeds of the sale that goes to the land bank. And I imagine, I'd be curious if there is a number of years after the sale that a percentage of the property tax would go back to the land bank. So those are just some gut concerns I've had, where it's just, even when there's not eminent domain involved, it's kind of manipulated the marketplace a bit.
Yeah. And I think in an extreme place like Detroit, you might see that happen because they've got some.
Can we stick with Wichita, Mary? I'm sorry, but we have to keep chugging. We got to stick with Wichita.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry, I just figured it was valid that the citizens of Wichita don't want a land bank coming here that's had the same problems like they've had in other cities. I figured that's a valid concern for folks here.
Your comment, I'm just saying we got to stick with some examples that are going to hit to Wichita, y'all, or we're going to be here. I don't want to be here till midnight.
But my example is a land bank that has an advisory board appointed by the city council with accountability from the city council. I just want the opportunity, for Mary, because this is going to keep coming up, I imagine, and a concern in the future.
And I would remind that this proposal has that all land bank meetings are open to the public, as well as, of course, the city council is open to the public. So.
Well, will the Wichita land bank receive any percentage of the property tax on a sale after the fact?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen anything on that.
And I think just to go ahead and follow on like that, or to that discussion, Mary, do you actually see on the spectrum Wichita looking anything like Olathe?
Looking, I'm sorry, in what way?
Where they purchase anything that
oh, you mean KCK?
Yeah.
No, they won't just take anything. Otherwise they're stuck with it. They'll be stuck with it for years and years. I mean, up in KCK, they're holding, I mean, my gosh, how many thousands of lots are they holding right now?
Gotcha.
If this one had 30, that'd be a lot.
That's a good number to keep things in perspective. Anybody else have any questions?
That's my opinion. Yeah.
Aaron.
Yes. Hit it, Luana.
Oh, okay. Yes. I think Tex brought up some good points. I mean, we've been talking this whole ethics policy and ethics review of our city and past dealings. And so I think we do have to be mindful of what could happen. And the only way to know what could happen is to look at other case studies. And so I think that was a valid point. And to that point, you talked about real estate people and people with knowledge being on the board. And I think that's what can maybe drive you to a place you don't want to be. So my question is, and it's on Facebook as well, where will the community input be? How do you get representation from community members from all over the city that has like another oversight, that's not a developer, that's not into real estate, that is simply looking out for the interests of the citizens?
Well, that's a great comment. We'll add that in. Yeah,
thank you.
I don't know how many people want to come to Board of Trustee meetings month after month after month, year after year after year, and it never hits their neighborhood. But maybe there are.
Yeah, I mean, we come to DAB meetings month after month after month and hear zoning cases. So there are a lot of people that are interested in what's going on in their communities.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Okay.
Any other comments? Mary, keep rolling.
Okay, we're getting there. Just the next step. Again, here, comments, questions, you can go to our website. We'll certainly gather all the comments that Camila's putting together. And again, here's the process that we're looking at right now. We're right at March with the DABs. And if you want to learn more, submit your comments. Anybody can schedule a presentation so long as it's a group. It's not a private presentation, it's a group presentation. And then this is our website, www.wichita.gov/places for people, and it'll take you right to that slide. So anyway, that's what I have.
Actually, Mary, this is Angela and Camila,
Hey,
if I may.
Angela.
say something. I have been hopping to all of the DABs that are meeting tonight, having this conversation. So I have not been able to be here the entire time, but I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Angela Johnson, and I am the Chief Engagement Officer with the City of Wichita. And I just want to encourage, going back to what LaWanda had just shared, and the fact that I've been hopping the DABs, I've seen some of the comments with some of the social media feeds, and there's a lot of feedback and questions and concerns about the land bank and about this process. And I would just encourage everyone, being able to lend your voice in the social media strings are great, but we have, well, in addition to that, and what will really help is engagement with the website and submitting your forms to get that directly to staff as soon as possible, and share your concerns, share what your questions are, so that way we can address them. And as Mary has done in my in and out that I've seen, she's listened and heard and is taking into account, which is why we're doing these conversations, what those concerns are and what are some things that perhaps the city staff and committees have not thought about or realized were questions or concerns. Well, by you all voicing and communicating that to us and to the city, it gives opportunity to respond. And I'll also share, when we have meetings and conversations, make sure you come out and engage and be a part of those meetings and conversations, and share that with others to get engaged as well. Just seeing some of the comments, it's so important to be involved and to be engaged. So as this is moving forward, as Mary mentioned, the meetings will be public. Come and get involved and engage. Continue to be on the website that will be updated to learn more ways to be a part of this process. So that way it is used as a tool to support those things that are important to the community. So I just wanted to add that. And again, I wish I could have stayed the whole time, but I've been dab hopping.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to hop over to DAB 5 and start all over again.
I wanted to come back in, Mary, and tell you that they started already in DAB 5, so you might just join in wherever level they are, but another staff member has already started.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you
Mary.
all very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, you betcha. Okay, now, how do I get over there?
If I may, Aaron, we can still type some comments, questions, and concerns that go with this, even though Mary has left.
That sounds good. So with that, we'll go ahead and take it to the DAB like we typically do. Anybody else have any other questions there? Feel free to go ahead and mention them now. For the community as well, whether or not you're on Facebook, Zoom, or otherwise, please keep the comments and questions coming. With that, I suspect that Camille will be able to go ahead and continue to take those even if we move on. And it's already 8:17, and it does not look like we're going to go ahead and have one of our longer meetings tonight, but we can still make some progress. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is a staff report, Park and Recreation. Camille, are you going to talk about that, or are you going to go ahead and give that?
Oh, and Angela's been patiently waiting.
Oh, patiently. You are right. Patiently.
Wow. Angela, thank you.
You're welcome. Man, learned a lot about land and zoning today. You guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. What I'm going to do first is do our 2021 athletic court capital improvement program. Camila, can you pull that up, please?
Oh, I had you actually the other way around.
Okay, fine. I can do the other one first. Let me do our DAB highlights for the recreation centers in District 1. Edgemore highlights, Edgemore Splash Pad is on target to be open for this summer. It is a unique design with 2 slides and a big bucket that will spill water, along with having a few shade structures. Our summer day camp program is in full planning mode, and staff has programmed quite a few fun field trips, such as All-Star Sports, All-Star Adventures, and Watson Park, to name a few. Camp will run at half capacity and continue with the COVID-19 safety protocols. Last summer was a success. Though attendance was down, staff was able to still offer a safe, fun, and structured playtime for kids and families. Facilities are available to rent again with lower numbers of people allowed. Both Edgemoor and Hyde have several rentals on the books in the upcoming weeks. McAdams had their first daddy-daughter dance, which was a success. 29 registrants with a cap at 30. It generated over $300 in revenue. McAdams will be offering more dances throughout the year. Due to COVID numbers, they had to restrict it to only 30. McAdams will be offering esports with everything online. You can check out the wichita.gov/park and rec site for updates and a start date. McAdams is also starting a late night basketball open gym for adults 18 and over starting February the 24th at a cost of $2 per participant. And that's going to be from 7:30 to 9:30 on Wednesdays. Linwood, on February 12th, the Park and Recreation Administrative staff hosted a virtual field trip for Wichita Public Schools featuring Linwood Recreation Center and programs offered. Approximately 5,000 students attended this field trip, which targeted grades 3rd through 12th. Students received a tour through Linwood's gym, fitness center, program classrooms, playground, horse pits, athletic fields, walking paths, and soon to be finished Linwood Park splash pad. Watson Park and McDonald Golf Course were additional field trip sites showcased during the virtual field trip. The field trip can be taken via Wichita Park and Recreation's YouTube channel. Not a Linwood highlight, Lisa says, but certainly worth promoting. Summer of Discovery registration begins March 15th. Summer of Discovery is a 9-week summer day camp program for kids ages 6 to 12 offered at Edgemoor, Linwood, and Orchard Recreation Center. The program runs June 1st through July 30th, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Cost to attend is $115 per child or per week per child that covers all the program expenses. Each week is filled with exciting activities that include field trips, swimming, on-site presenters, programs, organized games, craft, projects, bingo, and more. On to Woodard. Lynette Woodard's Recreation Center's Tots and Tiny Tots and training classes on Sunday afternoons have grown with participants. The 4-week 30 to 45-minute class sessions include Ninja Warrior Fitness, Junior Climbers, sports of all sorts, and a Warrior Obstacle course. Over $300 of revenue has been generated with over 24 participants and a 92% attendance rate. Woodard staff is currently in the process of meeting and interviewing several potential instructors for the summer session. Of these include photography, tiny tot and tot gymnastics, mindful meditation, and writing, and there's a few more. Of the potential instructors, these would be new programs and classes that have never been offered at Lynette Woodard. Something really cool I'm excited about is I'm currently working on a pilot program for youth ages 13 to 15 as a junior counselor, where the youth would be an integral part of our Northeast Activity Camp for 8 weeks from June the 7th through July the 30th. This would help aid and teach leadership tools along with providing a structured environment of fun and learning to better prepare our youth for jobs in the community. This is a vital program for the crucial age that are too old for our traditional camp and at times too young for a job. This effort aims at catching the youth that are yearning for education and instruction while gaining life skills. That's all my report on the rec centers.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any questions? From the dad? From the community? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 9. And Angela, I think you've got that one too.
I do. Camila. Oh, thanks, Camila. Okay, I'm going to be presenting on the 2021 Athletic Court System Capital Improvement Program for the Park and Recreation Department. Slide 2. Thank you. Currently, athletic court system, we have 177 total. We have 71 tennis courts, 16 at Riverside Tennis Center, 40 basketball multi-use courts, 38 sand volleyball courts, 32 at Watson, 19 outdoor pickleball courts, 9 at Riverside Tennis Center, 3 tetherball courts, 3 futsal, 2 tennis practice walls, and 1 shuffleboard court. Our current athletic court CIP funding is $225,000 annually through 2021 through 2030, which is $2.25 million total. Averages out to under $17,000 per court. Many courts will not need additional work courts in poor condition need to be removed and replaced. Some sample cost of court improvements, $160,000 for post-tension futsal court with special gold material, $75,000 post-tension single tennis court or double pickleball court, $70,000 post-tension basketball court, $60K concrete slab basketball court, and between 10 to 15 each temporary crack repair and resurfacing of asphalt courts. It may only last 1 to 2 years. No new rehab court lighting. Current court rehab needs funding levels and maintenance resources will not support installation of new court lighting at non-programmable courts. Lighting systems must be of excellent quality to stand up to public use with minimal maintenance. Lighting systems used at the Riverside Tennis Center and Stryker have a 25-year maintenance plan with the vendor. It's between $40,000 and $50,000 cost per court for quality lighting system. Stryker lighting was $1.5 million.
Do you want to go ahead and take questions in the middle or wait till the end?
Probably the end.
Roger.
Recent athletic court projects, Harrison tennis / futsal, double tennis court removed and replaced with post-tension tennis and futsal. Harrison basketball post-tension basketball court. Sherwood Glen basketball, a half basketball court with pickleball striping for portable nets. Evergreen Park tennis court modified for futsal. West Meadows Park, asphalt cracks repaired and court resurfaced. Court will be monitored closely as these types of repairs are usually short-term and not cost-effective. The current athletic court projects at Riverside Tennis Center, 13 courts replaced and or resurfaced, 3 additional tennis courts, 6 new pickleball courts, additional lighting in plaza area, surfacing and striping in the spring, 1.5 million CIP funding with a $400,000 grant through Mo Conley. The under design, Osage Park, double tennis to be replaced with single tennis and 2 pickleball courts. Spruce Park, a basketball court to be removed and replaced. Pyatt Park, basketball court to be removed and replaced. Inventory adjustment at Southview Park, double tennis court in poor condition to be removed and restored to green space based on public survey results. Court condition inventory. Court assessed annually by staff and assigned condition ranking based on size classification of park pros plan, court material, asphalt or concrete, court cracking, number of cracks, crack size and severity, condition of nets and posts, condition of marking, stripping, complaints from park patrons, requests for new and other courts. Additional assessment criteria, community engagement, DAB and city council presentation, public surveys as warranted, local group input. We do free play, area parks versus programmable, Riverside Tennis Center. Possible reduction of athletic court system to reflect current uses and ease maintenance resources. Top 10 courts, worst condition. Basketball, we have Boston, Cessna, East, Columbine, Country Acres, Emory, Harvest, Murdoch, Plainview. Tennis is Country Acres and Sycamore. Proposed 2021 program. 2021 will focus on replacing asphalt basketball courts with concrete courts and new backboards. 225,000 in 2021 funding should accommodate 3 basketball courts at Boston, Harvest, and Plainview. Assess Country Acres and Sycamore athletic courts. Expansion of programmable courts. Additional funding to be requested in the future CIP for tournament quality court system. Riverside Tennis Center expansion complete by May will allow for larger tennis tournaments. Pickleball courts will be programmable. Edgemore 6 tennis and 6 pickleball, and McAdams 6 adult courts, 2 youth courts could be rehabilitated to attract larger tournaments. Increased revenue from tournament programming will help offset maintenance cost. Questions?
I'm not sure if this is a question or whether or not it's just a comment, but I got a chance to, I've been to what, Chicken and Pickle like 2 or 3 times so far. And one of the times I was there, I got a chance to touch base with some regional pickleball advocate that was actually there and wanted to go ahead and make a specific notation that he believed that the lights for a tennis court versus a pickleball court were significantly different and had hoped that that type of infrastructure might be taken into account when we look at this stuff going forward. I don't know much more about it, but I just thought I'd pass it along.
No, I can definitely check on that, Aaron, and let Camila know, and she can let you guys know as well. I know they're putting in certain lights at Riverside, but I don't want to say if it's different lights for pickleball than the tennis. So,
anybody else from the DAB have questions?
I have one. Angela, hi.
Hi.
Wanda. Hey, the relationship the city has with Stryker, I thought Stryker was leased out to a private company. No?
It is leased out, but we still are able to do programs there at the facility.
And I only asked because you mentioned lights or something. So we still take care of the maintenance, we as in the city?
We do.
Okay. All right. And also any plans for any upgrades for at the football field at Grove Park or anything?
I will check on that and let you know. It's not in
right.
the CIP project, but I can let you know about Grove Park.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Now, I know you meant to say Glendie.
Oops.
No, I'm messing with both of you. It's a joke. It's just a joke.
Any other questions from the DAB or the community? Seeing none. Angela, thank you for your patience. You're a trooper sticking in for this whole meeting. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to hand it over to Brandon. Item number 10, council member updates and announcements.
Yeah, back to the end of the meeting again. Hope you all are having a wonderful evening. I've got a few updates and then happy to answer questions as always. First, I found out today, the reason you all have not received an email from me on DAB yet is we were trying to confirm a few things on terms, and we had a technical issue that needed to get resolved, but just kind of found out today that this will be Mr. Mays' last meeting. He has served a successful and wonderful, influential 8 terms for District 1. I think you served a couple terms for District 2 before that. So I just want to thank you for all the service and running the meetings and all your input that you have given us all. And I'll also be sending you a letter as well, but I just wanted to take the time during this meeting to thank you for your service, Aaron. So you will all be getting an email from me this week in regard to whether you want to continue on the district advisory board or not, now that I have everything input correctly. Update wise, our minority business fund that we announced a few weeks ago should be going live soon. We are in the final stages of getting that program done and worked out. So we should have some announcements here coming soon on that. I'm thinking beginning of April, maybe mid-April. There was a question last meeting about the, I think the company is Flock, the license plate cameras and where they are. The report back said that there are 10 to 15 per bureau. Remember, we have a north, east, west, and south bureau for police. Again, just because of how they work, the locations are not given, but that's how many are per bureau. Bureaus will overlap various districts. So District 1 is touched by Patrol North, Patrol East, and a little bit of Patrol South for downtown. Each district has touch points for multiple bureaus. So those are located throughout the city, as I had mentioned last meeting. Tomorrow is also the vote for District 3. That process is very lengthy, but tomorrow is our first shot at it. At the end of the meeting during the council agenda, we will vote on the 5 candidates who made it through DAB and try to appoint one for the new council member for District 3 for the remainder of the unexpired term. Just to let you know what that process looks like. Tomorrow, each candidate will be able to speak to the council for, I believe, 3 minutes, just to kind of give their final thoughts on why they should be selected. The candidate that receives a majority vote of the council, meaning 4 votes, will be the one that's appointed. If for some reason the council cannot get to 4 on one candidate, we have up to 5 rounds of doing that. So we will vote 5 times if we can't get to 4 per policy. Then we will stop voting, and then we will pick it up the next meeting, and we'll have another 5 opportunities per policy. If we cannot come to an agreement at that meeting, we will go to a 3rd meeting and vote 5 more times. If we cannot come to one candidate with 4 after 15 opportunities, then there will be a coin flip. So that means we would go through the entire month of March trying to vote on the District 3 council member. My hope is that we won't get there, but we will see tomorrow. That's our first shot at it. Also tomorrow, the ethics workshop will occur at 12:30. So if you are interested in tuning in, put that on your calendar, 12:30, we will have that. The National League of Cities will be walking us through a very detailed presentation on ethics. I'm looking forward to that. Not only will they review our policy, the good and bad, but also go through best practices and things that they've pulled from around the country. After that, the ethics presentation will come to every DAB in the city of Wichita. So District 1 will hear that in April. I will be bringing what we've heard. We'll also have a social media town hall. So I want to encourage you all to not only watch tomorrow, but send in feedback to the whole council, not just me, as well as when we get to the district advisory board, try to let all your neighbors know there's another opportunity to provide feedback. And then I believe it's May 4th, we will vote on the final policy. So make sure you tune into that. We should have a really good conversation around ethics.
Councilmember Johnson, can I chime in and say 12:30 was chosen as a different time than a regular workshop, correct?
Yeah, it's just a presentation. So council meeting will hopefully be over with by then. And then we'll start that presentation.
So it's a continuation from the council meeting, not a council workshop?
That was from the workshop. So from the workshop, we gave guidance to come back with this as a presentation so everybody could be a part of the ethics conversation.
So that means that people can stay tuned into the YouTube channel for the actual council meeting for this?
Yeah, unless we get done early, then they just come back at 12:30 and it'll show up live and we'll share it on all our social channels.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep. Just a few more updates. Governor Kelly was in town last week. She went to Jenny Don Sellers in District 1. So she came to the best district. Again, don't tell my colleagues I said that, but she came to the best district, went to a wonderful business and made the announcement that the state of Kansas is forgiving all the higher fund loans. So businesses that took out $18,000 to $20,000 in loans to try to stay afloat through the pandemic, it is now deemed a grant. They do not have to pay it back, and any business who has started paying it back will receive a refund from the state of Kansas. So that's a really big boost to our small business community. Excited to hear that and glad that the governor decided to come to Wichita and District 1 to make that announcement. It's a really good day. We continue to talk about more ways that small businesses could receive help. Also, those of you who have paid attention to the incident in Northeast Wichita with the towers and the A. Price Woodard neighborhood, with Evergy. There was a bill we all came to an agreement. Representative Finney really led that effort on the state level. Really appreciative of all the work that she did. But myself, her, and Evergy have continued this conversation since it happened about legislation that would help stop this in the future. We came to a compromise with House Bill 2321 that was introduced, amended. There was some compromise language made. It's not as strong as I think many may like, but it does achieve the opportunity to make sure all voices are heard in neighborhoods. It goes from just having landowners be notified to allow tenants to be notified as well. That way, if a landowner is out of state or just not good at communication, those who are residing at that address will know in the future about potential upgrades. It also gives the opportunity for the city to have a meeting. So MAPC and District Advisory Board presentation about future plans. We will receive those plans 6 months in advance. It forces a commission member of the KCC to come to Wichita to that meeting to hear in person the concerns and see that the presentation was done accurately. In this case, specifically with photographs of what is supposed to happen. And then they will hear from the neighborhoods and community to know that, their voice was heard. In addition to that, by working through the municipality, we are able to submit those minutes and records to the KCC, which is also, because of this bill, required to have a hearing in Wichita about any upgrade that happens in Wichita. This bill is focused on Wichita only. So whereas many of us wanted the whole state of Kansas to benefit, right now we're taking care of home. So Wichita will be able to have this. We are working through on the city side a potential policy or ordinance that will line up with this to ensure all of these things happen. Today, some good news. Last week it passed out of committee, so Representative Finney was successful. And today it received a favorable voice vote, which means I would say 99% chance it's going to pass, 99.9% chance it's going to pass when the House does vote. Next steps will be that it will get sent over to the Senate committee and we'll have to pass out of committee there and then pass the Senate before it goes to Governor Kelly. Once Governor Kelly signs that, Wichita now has the opportunity to have some voice in this. Again, we won't be able to say yes or no, but we can make all of our voices and wishes heard. So that was a bit of good news today. And then my last two updates, there are many people still struggling with rental and utility issues. Don't forget that the Wichita Emergency Rental Assistance Program is open right now. You can go to wichita.gov//housing to apply, and that looks at past due rent and utilities and future rent and utilities. So if you just got a job and you got quarantined or you can't come in for a month or so because of COVID issues, this will be something that can help you out. It is income-based, but if you go to wichita.gov/housing, you'll be able to see the qualifications for that and apply. And I want to encourage everyone to share the word on that because that's needed. Wichita was awarded $12 million, but our partners at the state, as we've continued to talk, have let us know that if we deplete that $12 million, there may be some more money available to help out Wichita. So again, share the word. There's a lot of people in need right now. I want to make sure that they know about that. And then lastly, just a little bit of good news. The light is at the end of the tunnel. Of course, vaccines are rolling out. The Sedgwick County dashboard is showing us below 4%. So that is wonderful news. We have to keep up the good work. That doesn't mean drop all protocols. Keep wearing your mask. I think the CDC guidelines now say double mask, a medical and a cloth mask. Continue to social distance, continue to wash your hands with soap and water. Use sanitizer if you can't, but keep it up. We're doing good right now. Let's beat this thing. We're getting to the final stretch. Vaccines are increasing and rolling out. If you still don't have a vaccine and you want it, make sure you're not only reaching out to the county, but also your local clinics, Health Corps, Grace Med, Hunter Health, Guadalupe, they also have received vaccines. And I believe very soon Dillon's and Walmart may be having vaccines as well. The Biden administration is trying to make sure those get out. There's been a third vaccine that's approved, Johnson & Johnson. The efficacy is not as high as Moderna or Pfizer, but Dr. Fauci is saying any vaccine is good right now. But if you can get Moderna or Pfizer, try to get that. The efficacy there is 95% and higher. So those are my updates, I believe. I guess the last one, we're still working through some questions on the Chester Lewis Reflection Square. Should have some answers sometime tomorrow, and then final decisions will be made, and that will be presented to the community in the near future about what that looks like. But everything we've seen thus far is pretty awesome, and looking forward to that. So I will stop there. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer about those updates or anything we've talked about.
Any questions from the DAB? Well, you guys continue to ponder that. Councilman, Vice Mayor, wanted to go ahead and ask you a little bit about where we're at with trying to figure out about what happened with the 3 police officers that tried to enter the house the other evening. Would really like to see some resolution on that. Is there anything you can talk about?
Can I chime in and say, did you see the press release today? It was the sheriff and FBI that spoke on that specific case, and it's out there on Facebook Live, an entire report.
I have not.
It was today.
Yeah, that report probably will give you more details than I'm about to. What we do know is that it was a sawed-off shotgun that injured the officers. They all will recover. We knew that day 2 of them, I believe, were minorly injured. One was more severe, but they're all going to recover. I did see 2 arrests occurred. 1 arrest. It might be 2. I know for sure 1 arrest happened in regards to that incident.
It's now 2.
Okay, so 2 arrests have occurred around that incident. And that's about what I know at this point. But that report, normally they give quite a few more details than that, but we are working towards resolution on that.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Aaron, it also said that they didn't think it was a direct ambush, basically a sawed-off shotgun with the trigger had been modified, was in a recliner with some other mechanisms. You know, some of the recliners have like a massage on it. So those wiring and all of those, so somebody or something chipped that recliner and the gun went off. But it's a full report there under Wichita Police Department's Facebook page.
Yeah, and if Dab doesn't, there was a question on Facebook about unemployment. I learned a lot of complex things about what happened with the federal government and unemployment in our state government. I know most people don't care about that. So what I will say is that the systems are being updated. I believe that they are catching up on everything. So if you are still having issues, you can email me. I submit those as well. You can reach out to your state level legislators. But if you email me, BJ Johnson, 2 J's at wichita.gov, I'll send it to who I know as well. They've been trying to get people a call back within 7 to 14 days. Again, there's a lot of demand on the system, so it might be closer to the 14 days, but they're trying to get people those calls back. And normally when they get you caught up, you get everything you've missed out on since then. So just keep trying on that, and they should get you a response. And I see the comment about shots fired. So I just want to continue to remind people on shots fired, if you hear it, call 911 and report it. You might not want your name on anything. You don't have to give all of that. But if you call and say you heard shots, give your address, general location, they'll be able to triangulate. And the more people that call, the easier it is for them to figure out where those shots kind of came from. And it always will stick with me that someone told me about, I think, 40 shots that had been fired off, and they told me 2 months after it happened. And they had never called the police. So I just want to encourage you, if you hear shots, call. I've done it. I've been outside. I think it was 2019, around 11 o'clock. Those of you who know I like to use my grill. I was outside trying to pull something off the grill, and I heard shots to the south of me. I called 911 immediately, gave my address, said I heard shots south of me. Can't tell you where, but this is where I'm at, and it was south of me. And literally, I think 3 minutes later, I heard sirens. They had figured out where it was. Enough people had called the police where they figured the general area. And when they pulled up, they began to see shell casings and all of that. So just want to encourage everybody, if you hear those gunshots, call the police, let them know where you heard it so they can get out there and try to help solve that issue as soon as possible.
Any other questions?
I think we broke a record on Facebook, got over 100 comments. Never happens.
Good discussion tonight, then.
Yeah, really good discussion.
All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the board agenda, updates, issues, and reports. And I'm just going to go ahead and look at the way that people are distributed, at least text here on the top left. You want to go first?
Only thing I would say following up about the vaccine is I think Dillon's received, there's at least 3 Dillon's pharmacies that received their Pfizer this last week. And it is very easy to sign up. If you're 65 and older, it takes less than 2 minutes. So do that. You just put in a couple of, it asks your information, a bot walks you through it. It's very simple. So Dillon is vaccinating now.
Michaela.
No updates.
LaWanda?
No updates, but Tex, are they giving out the vaccine shots still based on the guidelines, which is 65 years old?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tadana?
No updates.
Katie?
No updates.
Seth?
No updates.
Danielle?
No updates.
Jamie?
No updates.
Did I miss anybody else? I don't think so. All right.
Danielle Johnson.
He got me. I said no updates.
My head was down. Can you call me, pick me.
Camila?
Who, me?
You.
Neighborhood cleanup applications were emailed today to all neighborhood cleanup representatives who may have signed up in the last couple of years to coordinate that for your area. The city is on a budget for these neighborhood cleanups due to our shortfall from the pandemic. So please reach out to your neighborhood association rep and see if they're going to host a cleanup in District 1. And some homeowners associations may not get one this year due to the funding. So it is first come, first serve. Please get those applications in and we'll be going from there.
Fantastic. All right, so I didn't actually call my own name, and so I guess I'll go ahead and take my stab now. It would appear this is the last time I'll get a chance to go ahead and be part of the DAB. So I didn't realize that until tonight, and that's probably my fault because I knew it was eventually coming. But in any case, I wrote down just a couple of different things here, and so forgive my rambling. What a fantastic opportunity to go ahead and get a chance to spend time doing this. Even though we actually say there's a bunch of people here, and there are, and all of you, thank you, and this is fantastic. But when you get a chance to go ahead and look at the broader community, there's not a whole lot of people that are willing to go ahead and devote the amount of time that you guys do. So kudos to you. Keep it up. The other thing I want to go ahead and just kind of point out is ultimately we're here really trying to go ahead and help Brandon. Brandon's got a tough job, and he actually gets crap from everybody, and he gets to go ahead and make decisions that no matter what he actually decides is going to upset somebody. And so in our discussions that we get a chance to go ahead and have, anytime we get a chance to go ahead and bounce ideas off of each other, good. And if we agree, great. If we don't, that's probably even better for him, because that means that he gets a chance to go ahead and hear the ideas that people, think on different sides of the issue, and it's not actually being aimed at him. And I suspect that's probably a nice thing for the majority of the stuff that he gets on a regular basis. As a general concept, don't seek out people that actually think just like you. And within this group, I don't think that's the case. I think we've got a broad, different perspectives, and I think that's a great thing. To those people that are out there, and it's probably not a whole lot of people that are still on, but that actually just want to go ahead and sharpshoot everything that Brandon says, my goodness, cut the guy some slack. He's doing a good job. What else? Wichita's a fantastic and beautiful place. The more that each of us gets a chance to go ahead and travel around, you recognize the jewel that the Wichita is based off of the people that are here. And that's a really cool thing. Continued prayers for you, sir, Vice Mayor, that you continue to be wise, faithful, and courageous. And if I get a chance to go ahead and continue to talk to you about some of the budget issues that I've been trying to address, I'd be grateful. But other than that, what a pleasure. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. And we did talk about that today, so you'll probably hear from us this week or next week.
Hey, good deal.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, there's only one other element. And just because it's my last meeting, I'm going to go ahead and actually make the motion that we adjourn. Anybody else want to second it?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. So all those in favor, raise your hands or say aye.
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 Camila, was that you?
No, that was actually your dad members. I just want to know who's going to do paper, rock, scissors and lead the meeting next month.
Aaron, thanks for your service.
Much appreciated. It's been a blast. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
With that,
Bye, everyone.
see everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.